If I only knew one metric about you, I could probably predict your level of self-confidence, how happy you are for the most part, and maybe even your level of success. So let me ask you a question. How often do you keep your word? On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate yourself on the consistency of keeping your word? Now, you probably made the assumption that I was asking you, how often do you keep your word to other people, right? What I really want to know is, how often do you keep your word to yourself? Well, today I'd like to share some things with you that I've recently learned that have really changed my life. And if you're struggling with trying to get yourself to take action when you have little or no motivation, the concepts that I'm about to share with you will have a profound effect on your life as well. So a little bit about me. I've always been into health and fitness, and I've always been extremely healthy until I wasn't. Up until a little over a year ago, I'd been sick in over 25 years, not even a head cold. But in August of 2022, something strange began to happen to me. And it started with a night sweat. One of those, like maybe you have a bad dream or a fever or whatever, night sweat. This one was really, really different. This one was like somebody poured a gallon of water head to toe over me while I slept. And when I woke up in the morning, I was absolutely drenched. Even my sheets were soaking wet. The next thing that happened is my cough. I started developing a really super intense cough where I couldn't stop coughing no matter what I did. I was absolutely exhausted all the time. Even breathing was a chore. And within 2 weeks, I had lost 21 pounds, and I was pretty sure that I was dying. Now, some of you are sitting there going, man, you lost 21 pounds in 2 weeks. I want to hear a little more about this diet that you have. You don't want to do it the way that I did it. Absolutely not. So I went to visit my doctor, something I rarely did. His name is Dr. Kamal. And the most amazing part of my talk today is what he did. That man sat down with me for almost 45 minutes and just talked to me about my symptoms. He really did. He was so interested, he just kept asking me all these questions. Now, some of the questions that he asked me were pretty conventional. He'd say things, I won't go into those, but just really traditional questions. But then some got kind of odd. He was like, are you a farmer? Or have you spent a lot of time in the dirt lately? And I was like, well, we have a piece of property. I've been driving a bulldozer and tractor and skid steer and doing a lot of excavation, and we dug a pond. So he keeps taking notes, and then he looks up and goes, I don't think you have cancer like I'd originally thought I did. I think you have valley fever. Now, I'd heard of valley fever before, but I had no idea what it was, not like I do now. But it's a really incredibly insidious disease or condition. And when it invades your body, it comes from spores in the ground. And many times it attacks your lungs. It's also extremely hard to detect unless you happen to test specifically for it. That's why I'm so grateful that he took the time to really understand my symptoms before he just started testing me for stuff, because more than likely I wouldn't be standing here today had he not acted so quickly. So I'm super grateful for him with that. So then I started on medicine. My medication, I started feeling a bit better. I'm still exhausted, but better. But the challenge was getting myself to take action, to where I was like the simplest things that I used to do, I wasn't doing. Getting up in the morning was an everyday challenge. Going to the gym was like, that ain't happening. I wasn't doing it at all. And I was consistently breaking my promises to myself. I would say, hey, tomorrow I'm going to get up early. I didn't. Tomorrow we're going to the gym. I didn't. And for the very first time in my entire life, I began to understand what it felt like to be depressed. Now I have a confession to make. I've never really understood depression. I never really understood when people talked about depression. I was a little more cavalier in my attitude. I was more like, just put your mind to it. You can outwill it if you just set your mind to it, you can get it done. But I learned very quickly that's not the case when you're feeling depressed. You can't take action. Even the smallest things seem almost insurmountable, and that's where I was. The thing about it is, too, I had all the information to change. Back in my younger years, you might say that I was a little bit obsessed with self-improvement books. I'd read them all the time. And back to my college days, I had 3 roommates that were just so much fun. We always went out on Saturday nights and did fun stuff and whatnot. But this Saturday night, I decided to stay home. So they went out, I stayed home. One of my roommates came home to find me doing something a little bit embarrassing about midnight. Any idea where I'm going with this? Relax, it's not what you're thinking. I was there in my room. I had the power of positive thinking in this hand, and I was typing in my highlighted notes with the other hand. This is my idea of an exciting Saturday night. And it was also for Kindle, which that's helped tremendously. So my roommate comes home, walks by my door. Hey, man. And then he kind of, I can't moonwalk or I'd show you. He kind of moonwalks backwards and he looks at my door and just looks at me and he goes, what are you doing? I said, oh man, I'm just sitting here, typing out notes from my power of positive thinking. And the more I started to explain it to him, I realized how ridiculous it sounded. In his head, like the puppy dog, when a puppy dog's watching you, how their heads just kind of tilt. And that's what he was doing. He's looking at me like this. He goes, man, you mean to tell me you stayed home to do this and didn't want to go out this? You're weird. And at that moment, I kind of realized, man, this is a little bit of a little bit of an obsession, but oh, well, this is just how I am. But all that to say that out of the hundreds of books that I've read on personal performance and self-development, none of it was working. And no amount of positive thinking was getting me out of this hole. So I remember like yesterday, I was in my truck driving, and that day I was feeling like just an absolute loser. And I was desperate for answers. Like out of all these books I've read, none of it was working. And I was listening to an audiobook from a man named Ed Milet called Max Out Your Life. And I'm going to paraphrase for you what he said, but here's the crux of it. Ed said that he has really built a stellar and solid relationship with himself because he always keeps the promises he makes to himself. He always keeps his word. And something just clicked. I was like, there's my problem. I don't trust myself. I'm constantly breaking my word to myself. I'm consistently inconsistent at keeping my word. And so Ed went on to talk about how all broken relationships are the byproduct of broken promises, even with ourselves. So here's what's going on. Our unconscious mind is either booing us or cheering us, right? And mine was booing me all the time. It was booing me. It was like, because I'm thinking, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do my conscious mind's like, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. My unconscious mind is like, no, we're not. We never did. He was like a fat guy eating Cheetos in his underwear on my couch, watching Matlock. And he's like, no, I'm good right where we're at. So here's what I did. At that moment, I decided I'm going to make an absolute commitment to myself to keep my word to myself no matter what. And that's it. Thank you, guys. No, that's not what happened. It was an important first step, but there was so much more that needed to happen. The next thing I did, all right, I'm going to change my self-talk to I always keep my word to myself no matter what. And that helped a little bit more. But it's absolutely crazy to me, standing here right now, saying that getting up 15 minutes earlier in the morning was such a daunting task. But as crazy as it sounds, that's where I was at. So I'm like, all right, there's got to be something more. There's got to be another answer here. And I remembered a book that I had read years before from a lady named Mel Robbins called The 5-Second Rule. Amazing book. What it is it's a countdown like a rocket launch. So let's just take getting up early in the morning, for example. You have that negotiation period where like the alarm goes off and you kind of negotiate with yourself and you're thinking, should I get up? Should I not? It overrides that. So what you do is when your eyes open, you count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go, and you just get up. The thing about this 5-second rule is it's a powerful metacognition tool that helps to override procrastination and helps us to take action. And I'm telling you, it worked like nothing else. I'm so grateful for that book. And I highly recommend that you get it too. So what happened was I got a little bit of a break. When I combined the commitment, keep my word, self-talk, combining it with the 5-second rule, that's when I struck gold. That was the first bit of momentum that I actually saw happening. And it was the synergistic effect of these working together that actually really started me on the process again, the process of recuperation, the process of success, whatever you want to call it. So anyways, I continued on, and I got to a place where I started feeling a little bit better about myself. I started stacking up wins. The momentum started to kick in. The next thing that happened was this. This was really transformational. I designed a morning routine that was minute by minute. The morning routine was like, I'd had one before, but it was more general. But this one was designed to be minute by minute by minute for the first hour of the day. And the amazing thing about it is, first of all, we have only a thimbleful of self-discipline to work with every day. Studies have shown that we only have a little bit. So the idea is to take that little thimble of self-discipline and invest it into habits and rituals that don't require any self-discipline. Does that make sense? So that's what I did. I created this really detailed morning routine to lay hold of habit gravity. But here's where I derailed. I threw in a workout that was too intense, and I started procrastinating again. So even though I felt like I could do it, even though I felt like I could do more, I wasn't. And so here's what I did. I had a conversation with myself. I was like, okay, what if my entire workout for the day was one set of 1 rep? I mean, my entire workout was 1 pull-up, 1 chin-up, 1 curl, whatever. Could I do that? I was like, yeah, I could do that. I could commit to that. So that made me realize that I was dealing with too much volume, too much complexity, which was leading to procrastination. So here's what I did. I decided, all right, tomorrow morning, I'm going to get up 15 minutes earlier, and I'm going to walk on my treadmill for 1/8 of a mile. Slow, no incline, walk 1/8 of a mile. And then every week, I'm going to add another eighth of a mile to it. And it worked. Pretty soon, I was walking a 1/4 mile, 1/2 mile. Then I started running a 1/4 mile, mile. And before long, I was running 2 miles 6 days a week. Now, to my former self, who cares? You ran 2 miles, big deal. But for where I was right then, I mean, it was absolutely like the most incredible thing that I was so proud of myself for such a long dry spell that I'd had. Now, I'm going to tell you, my workouts today, they aren't as good as they used to be. But they're getting better every day. And for the first time in my life, here it goes, I started focusing on the process rather than just being obsessed with the end result. And that's really what made all the difference. So enough about me. I want to talk about you and how you can apply this to your life if you're struggling with trying to get yourself to take action. So the very first thing you want to do is you want to commit to the process of honoring and keeping your word to yourself no matter what. No matter what. Then you want to change your self-talk to I always keep my word to myself no matter what, to support that. I'd also recommend you begin with a wake-up challenge. You set your alarm clock 15 minutes earlier in the morning, and then you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. No more negotiating. You just do it. Then I'd recommend that you pencil out an exact minute by minute, first hour of the day, morning routine to lay hold of habit gravity. What you want to do is you want to create a Groundhog Day approach, kind of like that movie with Bill Murray, where he relives the same day over and over. That's what you want here. Because what will happen is you'll start being pulled towards those goals instead of you having to kick the mule and push yourself. So that's really where I'd begin. You'll start stacking up wins, feeling better about yourself because you're keeping your word to yourself. And the thing about it is when we keep our word to ourselves, it provides undeniable proof that we are who we say we are. And our self-esteem starts to grow. When your self-esteem starts to grow, everything gets easier. So if you just continue with it, if you commit to the process, you're going to be amazed at the results that you get. Zig Ziggler, I don't know if you're familiar with him. He used to say, by the mile, it's a trial, but by the inch, it's a cinch. And so like that's been kind of my mantra too, to be able to just adopt that, just little by little by little. Slow and steady wins the race. And here's the thing. Let's just say you get derailed. And you're like, oh man, I'm procrastinating again. It's just not working out for me. What you want to do is just throttle back, give yourself permission to begin again more intelligently, and go. The main thing to remember is it is a process. It's not a race. It's not a competition. I remember my son years ago. He and I had a conversation. He was going through some really hard times. And I said to him, Brandon, do you realize that you're only a couple decisions away from an amazing life. If you just make a couple decisions differently, the entire outcome of your life is going to be different. And the same thing applies to you. If you'll just commit to this process and really, really do it, do what you say you're going to do, you're going to be amazed at how much progress you start making, how proud of yourself that you are, and just how everything turns out. You're going to finally gain that momentum that you're after. Well, TED Talks are all about ideas worth sharing, but today I want this one to be about actions worth taking. So I'll leave you with this. When it comes to depression, if you're dealing with depression, don't expect other people to understand what it is you're going through. I mean, I didn't. And it's not that I didn't want to understand. It's not that other people don't understand. It's that we're not really capable of it unless we've been through it ourselves. So be patient with them. And be patient with yourself as well as you're going through this process. I think that it's important to identify and to look at depression for what it is. It's a very serious condition. I just don't want you to live there. Well, God loves you, and so do I. And I really appreciate you allowing me to share this with you today. Thank you.